the first thing I'm going to look at is like, are you even being who you are? First of all, because if you're not, I guarantee you that fulfillment, the money, whatever you're trying to get to, you can't fully reach it until you fully show up. It's so much fun when someone really feels good in their skin again.
Brilliantly different. Friends, it's Dianne here at Someone Gets Me, and I have my really good friend. Her name is Lia Dunlap, and you are going to love this show. So welcome to the Someone Gets Me podcast. And today we are talking about you, the brilliantly different person. Now, you may not believe that you're brilliantly different. You may not believe that you're different by design. You may not believe you're brilliant. Well, I'm here to tell you, and Lia is going to tell you too, that we have a different take on this idea. And in fact, you are brilliant. And in fact, there's more to you than your eyes can see or your ears can hear. It's really amazing. So I met Lia a few years ago at a conference in San Diego, California. And we hit it off. And I'm like, I really like her. And I didn't tell you this yet, Lia, but when I first met her, I was like, I don't know if I measure up. She's so got this beautiful energy. And I wasn't sure if I could measure up. And that, of course, that was my own lie. I told myself, right? But that's true, and that happens to us who are neurodivergent. Sometimes we don't believe that we have everything we need to bring to the table. So over the time, we have become friends. And so here you are visiting with us in this great conversation. So get your tea, get your coffee, be ready to kick back and enjoy a conversation with an amazing person who lives with this vision and this energy and this passion that is quite rare. So Lia, thank you for coming on Someone Gets Me with me today. We're going to have so much fun.
Mwah. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. You got me blushing over here, Dianne. I am so thrilled to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to get down to it and start chatting.
Oh, this is going to be so fun. And so what I want to start with a little bit, and as you and everyone who knows me knows, I ask all my questions of intuition. There are no notes here. This is an actual conversation between two people who have a lot in common, and we have a lot of intersections and a lot of differences because we're brilliantly different. And so what I'd like to ask you first, because you have so many amazing gifts, how old were you when you started realizing, there's something different about how I do the world?
Oof, good question. And I was, when I think back to like, how did this all start? Like, when did I really recognize it? I think it came in stages, but I will tell you like the earliest memory I have of recognizing on my own that something was different about me was probably around the time between about, I'm going to say, because our memories are what they are. I was probably around between 7 and 9, maybe about 9-ish. And I knew things, and I had always known them, but I now recognize that I knew things that other people didn't know. And then I started saying the things that I knew, especially around grownups who did not like hearing the news I had to share as a young person. And I say that because the reason I started realizing it was a good different was because of my grandmother, who we called Pumpkin, who I was very close to. And I felt so different anyway, because I'm adopted. I happen to be in an all-white family. And if you're not watching this, I have dark curly hair. I happen to be half African American, half Irish. So I definitely was already different, right? I already looked different. My beautiful sisters are all very tall, blonde, California blonde, beautiful people. And so my grandmother at the time told me one time, because I was feeling like that. I was just feeling so completely and totally alone and different. And so she was kind of my solace. And I remember this memory of going to her kind of in tears, really upset. And just like, I don't fit, I don't belong here, and I remember her turning to me and saying, you are really special. Don't ever let anyone tell you that you're not. And it stuck. It stuck. And not that made everything right, but I still to this day remember it. It gets me emotional just to think about her gift to me by just registering and seeing not only the pain of me feeling like, how come I am so literally physically different, but also like the way I am, the way I know things and do things is so different. And she took that difference and made it special. And I, could never thank her enough. But I know that was one of those early moments when the seed was planted that what made me different really made me special.
Yes. Oh, that's amazing. I remember when I was like, I think I was in third grade or something. I came home crying because I said something and I crawled in my mom's lap and I was crying. She goes, honey, it's okay. You're different than everyone else. And I didn't have any idea what it meant.
Yeah.
But somehow it was soothing. Like, I am different. I don't do the world the way other people do. And I say things that shock the big people. They're like, what? How did you know that? I'm like, I thought everybody knew that.
Yes.
Yeah. I used to call it spiritual naivete. Like, I just know it. And I just thought everybody knew. So I don't know what the problem is. And then I realized that's not the case.
That's so true. That's exactly what it was. And it took much longer. I think I was really, when I was 14 was when it was 100% clear because I was old enough to recognize I could see it. Not other people, not my grandmother telling me, but that I knew, okay, that's different, And then it was like, oh, like I am not only different, but this is a really different thing. Other people are not having this experience. And the good news is I thankfully, because I think of that from her, chose to value it and use it in my life.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
So many people that I've run into, and I want to know if you've run into this too with friends or people or even people you work with that have these kinds of really amazing gifts, and instead of valuing it, they shut it down and they sometimes deny it, but even worse than that, disown that part of them and literally segment it off. And that creates so much depression and angst. And do you ever run into that with people that you work with or people you know?
So often, absolutely. And early on, when I kind of grew up my shingle and became my first official business was as a hypnotherapist because I could help people, which is ultimately what I always wanted to do was to help people. But when I would start to talk to people, I would recognize in them that specialness. And then I would well, why aren't you just being like who you actually are? Like, why are we building this fake world to try to fit into it rather than just learning to express who you truly are? And that for me, that's kind of where my whole life purpose has been, to help people find and follow their unique life purpose. And I think part of that is what makes them special, what makes them unique, what makes their flavor of who they are and why they are the way they are so specifically and wonderfully and awesome to be developed and brought together. And so, yeah, I think a lot of the women that I work with, a lot of the people that I work with, because I don't just work with women, but a lot of the people that I work with would come to me. And that was almost instantly, if they were out of alignment, there's number one. The first thing I'm going to look at is are you even being who you are? First of all, because if you're not, I guarantee you that fulfillment, the money, whatever you're trying to get to, you can't fully reach it until you fully show up. So how do we help you do that? How do we help you integrate it? How do we help you express it? How do we help you just show up and be it? And it's so much fun. And I'm sure you have this experience too, Dianne. It's so much fun when someone really feels good in their skin again. I love that feeling. I love watching somebody's eyes light up it's okay to be this. And I'm like, yeah, it's not only okay, it's exactly why you were designed. So please come be all of who you are.
Come out and play, will you?
Yeah, please. We want you out here. Come on out and play with us.
Well, I just remember the silent misery of not being comfortable in my skin. And that it was really severe depression at one point. In fact, I did a show about that. And all different kinds of things were how difficult it was. And then I remember the day I said, that's it. I'm just going to be me. And if the world doesn't like it, too bad. And I did lose a lot of friends over it. There was a great deal of loss over it because people didn't know how to take me. And I wouldn't turn back. I'm glad I did it. It's I don't want to go back to the masking way, but we live in a society that wants everybody to fit into comfortable little boxes. And none of us fit in those boxes.
Yeah. And the labels of those boxes even, right? It's like, it's not just the box, it's the labels are too restricting. It's like
totally.
We put such big blanketed labels on things, and it's so frustrating to me. But I know for myself as well, it took me a long time, to be honest with everybody listening, it took me a long time to know that what I was enough. And I think that's why I'm so passionate now about it with other people. It's like, I used my gift my whole life, but I only honored my gift over the last 20 some years, so it's like, I'm in my 50s. That's a long time to not be 100% aligned and in full face, like you said, I like that. The masking was gone. But one of the biggest things for me was the intuitive part. Like, I would like saying that word, like when I became the Oracle on Purpose in my business, I had a lot of business names before that. And what I heard, and even in like the world that you and I are in, like, other coaches telling me not to tell people. Like, as I was trying to build the work around the thing I had, they were saying, well, nobody wants to know like that. Like, that's the whole labeling thing. Like, let's make this label palatable, right? Like, let's change your title. And I so many different titles. And I was like, that's not it. That's not it. That's not it. And then finally it was like, it came to the point of just knowing that. It was like, look, this is just who I am. And people want to challenge me even still today about it. I'm like, I don't need to explain it to you. Like, it's just what I am. I don't, it's just what it is. I am the Oracle on Purpose. I know that I help people with their purpose. I know that I have an intuitive gift where I get messages for them that help them get there. There's nothing else I can explain to you. If you don't like it, like you said, oh, well, like, then I'm not for you, but I'm no longer, as you said, holding that piece of me back. And I'll tell you, that was a huge difference in my business, actually accelerating, right? Because I finally, it's a lot of effort, isn't it, Dianne?
Well, I think it's a lot of effort. Sometimes it feels like running through Jello or something, because it's like we're in a world that's not built for us. Yeah. And we have a skill set and an understanding. Even Forbes magazine said intuition's the highest form of intelligence. So, all right. So those of us who have high intuitive skills, it's the highest form of intelligence. It's not like a game. I had one person on the podcast, actually, and I said, I ask all my questions using my intuition. And then later on social media, when we put everything out, he said, oh, and you went by the seat of your pants. I said, intuition is not the seat of my pants. And he called me and said, duly noted. It's not. It was like, it's not, it might feel like that to somebody who's not paying attention, but it's not, And so it's really amazing. And I've tried on a bunch of different titles and names and things too, trying to see, because the world doesn't fit. So what I've learned, and I want to hear if this is any of your experience too, and this is kind of like just from my own world and with all the different clients I've helped and stuff. It's like, if we come up with a really good idea or we see something intuitively, it's somewhere between 18 months and 5 years before the rest of the world catches up. So we have to be really good at hanging out and waiting for everybody else to catch up, or push limits, or find the 1 or 2% of the people who get it. But to understand that if we get something really strong, that doesn't mean it's going to happen this weekend, because the world has not caught up to us yet. Do you ever have that experience too?
Oh, absolutely. I used to like, I remember when I was younger, that was a thing. I would be like, I thought of that. Like, and it would like be developed in the world. I'm like, oh, I remember thinking about that. And to your point, I think the other part of it is that I still tell my clients, like, every month I have an open Oracle call so people can come and ask questions. And I still remind them, like, this information is for you now. Like, you're getting a message that is for the you are now, but we are all interconnected. So there may be things that are being worked on around you, without you, that you don't know about. And to me, that's oftentimes you'll hear people say, like, there's a germination period. But I think that's the germination. It's everything falling into place so that the thing can come to be. And I agree with you, actually, because I think part of the challenge is that not everybody listens to their intuition, right? So imagine if everybody did. Imagine how quickly things would develop if everybody was listening to their own intuition and their own nudges, then things would speed up. But because that's not true right now in the way we are, if you have a very intuitive hit, it's for you. Take it, move through with it, trust that it's there for a reason, but also know that, there's a timing that's going on that is beyond you too. And you can get comfortable with that idea of like, it'll come to pass when it's meant to come to pass. And your job, if you will, quote unquote, right, is to just trust and know that's an inclination for you to be aware of and to either move things around to accommodate or accept it or receive it. And yeah, I think it all takes time. We all know that, I think, inherently too. We just get kind of anxious.
Yeah, and we get caught up in it. So I would like you to share. I'm going to ask you a question because I want you to share some tips with people, because I get these questions all the time, and I think it's important because we've learned how to use our intuition, effectively. And then there's the people who have an intuitive ability, but they're not really sure about it. They're just kind of making friends with it. But they're also afraid that they're misinterpreting. So the question is, how can someone discern the difference between their intuition and their ego that's not their amigo?
I like that. Ego that's not their amigo. The way that I usually tell people, and I'll share it here as well, for me, when I have an intuitive hit, it literally feels different. It feels as if it doesn't necessarily come from my chatty mind. Like that to me is the ego, right? The ego is all the thinking stuff. So I usually say, like, test whether or not you're feeling this thing or you're thinking this thing, right? Yes. And is it a reaction to something, or does it feel like it's coming out of quote unquote nowhere? I don't like why I keep doing air quotes, where it's coming out of nowhere. It just kind of comes upon you, this idea or thought or a feeling. Because if we're learning how to engage with our intuition, it takes quietness. It takes us paying attention at a softer, deeper level of what is that nudge, that feeling, that noticing. And I think when we are in our chatter mind, where we're trying, there's an efforting part of that, then we can kind of guess that we're actually being more linear in thinking about a thing rather than being inspired about something. So to me, that's kind of the difference.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to describe that. And so many linear thinking people, gifted people, love to be linear. And then the idea will pop in, or the thing will come in, and then I'll get the phone call. What came out of nowhere? I'm like, great.
That's it.
And I get all excited, and they're all freaking out, or whatever. And so there's all of this beautiful dance, because in my book, Someone Gets Me, I talk about being intensely sensitive, which means somebody who's got the overexcitabilities of being gifted and they're intuitive on top of it. And so this extreme sensitivity that has an intensity that goes with overexcitabilities is a unique marriage, because you can have an intellectual overexcitability, wanting to ask all the questions in the world, and emotional intensities and all of those things. And then you can also have the intuition on top of it. So it makes a very interesting dynamic within the person, much less in the relationships. And speaking of relationships, how do you manage? You're married, you have a son, right? Yeah. And so how do you manage your marriage, your friendships, your child? With everyone knows how intuitive you are, and you know how intuitive you are. So how does that all work? Because some people, are afraid that, I've had people tell me, and I haven't ever said this out loud recorded, but I'm going to do it anyway. I have had many people tell me that, especially when I was dating, that they couldn't date me. Multiples. I can't date you because you can see through me. And that was before I knew I could, because I didn't know I was. I was just saying things. And then I'm like, oh, and I had to put that together, that these things happen. But a lot of people have run afraid of me because of my intuitive gift.
Yeah.
And it happens a lot. So how do you manage that within your relationship and in your family?
Oh, that is such a good question. And side note, we have recently come to understand that both my husband and my son have ADHD qualities. And so what you were just talking to, that brings me to that, because for my husband, especially, he is very empathic. And so, but he's also very sensitive. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes there can be some miscommunication. So for me, what I always come back to is, because I am actually really, one of my core spiritual qualities is truth, transformation, and freedom. Those are like my core things. And so I can feel myself get agitated if I'm being questioned about something that's a miscommunication. And so we actually came up with, this is a shout out to Ted Lasso. We actually came up with a word that was like, if we say this word, after that word, whatever is going to be said will be the truth. And then each of us have agreed, like, we'll accept whatever it is. So we will stop the miscommunication. Like, just break that pattern, because you're right. It is a pattern for him, and it's a pattern for me. Like, if I say a true thing, I'm expecting people to receive it that way. But if he's challenged with him not understanding, or he's in a moment where he's feeling more sensitive, and then his empathic energy is playing in there can be a lot of miscommunication that goes on. So it's like, how do we break that pattern? And we have been together for 30 years. So, we've had our moments. And so we saw this thing on Ted Lasso, and we agreed. When, of course, I will say this, when we were in a calm state, nothing was going on. That's the time you agree to do this, not
Yes.
during the middle
Yes.
of something. But
Right.
once we did, what it is helped so much for us to just stop and break that state. Because I think it is also a part of our state, and I'm sure you can understand that as well. Like, we get into the state where suddenly we're worked up around something, and then we're just in it. We can't get out of it. So to break the state, we agreed to do this in our word. I won't tell the word on here, but let's say it's pineapple. And it's like, when you're not sure, we just say the word pineapple. And then no matter what happens, the other person says the full truth, right? Even if it feels like it's going to be uncomfortable, or, it's going to hurt the other person's feelings, or whatever it is. And then we go from there. And I think that part of that, the reason I bring that up is, it has made having a communication stopgap so much easier, so that we can talk about the real thing, not the over agitated side of things for either of us. And I think it is a big part of us being able to kind of meet in the middle to communicate, instead of me making him wrong or him making me wrong for being really direct, which I am, and him, kind of being very much more, there's this the energy of like his expression can get really agitated when he feels these things. And so it's like, let's just talk about the thing, and then we can go from there. So I think that's been a really big key. I also know for my son, because I am very direct and I've been really direct, I have also worked really hard for myself to use softer language. And I usually, for him, it's a matter of physical space. So I come and I sit by him. I don't look at him. I sit next to him, right? I do no direct eye contact. Our best conversations are usually in the car when we're driving, and he's in the back seat and I'm in the front seat, or side by side. So even at home, I just remember that if like I'm getting like, oh, you didn't do a thing or what have you, I take a breath, I come and I sit next to him, and then we just kind of walk through that together. But I know that there's a big pieces, understanding each other's energy, understanding that it is different. It's not wrong, it's just different. And we're all very different. And it's beautiful because they're very much the same. So they kind of hit a little bit more, they hit more bumps than I do typically. So I get to be kind of, my joke is I'm Switzerland. I get to be in the middle going, okay, so I think what's going on is this and this. So yes, I mean, it's very, I think it's just about really caring enough to step away from, again, we go back to the labels of like, this is a wrong thing. Instead, just be like, how do we find our way with who we are and how we communicate, and how do we make it work?
Right. I think that that's so important, because I'm sitting here listening to you and I'm like, all relationships, if we value them at all, require investment,
Right.
and require engagement and caring enough about ourselves and the other person or people in order to find whatever that road is for whatever the situation is. And I think that the investment piece in today's culture sometimes is marginalized, minimized, and in some cases not even talked about. And then here we are, these intense, brilliant, intuitive people who have to invest a lot just to like break even some days.
Right.
And And it takes a lot to be in a relationship with us and for us to be in a relationship with others, because it's not a flat line and it's not a black and white show. It's more like, high def 3D surround sound stereo, loud. And so it takes being willing to invest.
Yeah.
And on both people's parts,
That's the piece. Yeah. And I would say the other thing that you said that is true, which is people have said to me, and that's why when your opening was kind of funny, people will say to me, like, I was afraid to talk to you. Like, I promise you. And I think this is true. Like, I don't go out into the world trying to I'm not using my X-ray vision to pay attention to everybody's everything all the time. I really do honor that it is a gift. And, it's also, like you said, it is a relationship. Like, if somebody needs my support, wants my support, ask me a question, I'm going to tune in a little tighter, but I don't go out seeking to make people feel exposed or uncomfortable. And yet you're right. Sometimes people just automatically assume like, oh, well, then you can see everything. I can't, I can't sit with you. I can't talk with you because I feel like I'll be exposed.
Well, that's funny because that's not the feeling I had, but I did have that feeling like, oh, I can't measure up to her, but it was because of my own stuff. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I belong with these people, like in general, in that particular thing, because largely a lot of people in the helping world, or so they say, look at money first and helping second. And that's not my worldview. And I had to run into a lot of people that was the energetic. And I'm like, I don't even know what energetic it is back then. So that's why I stay open and invest in situations, because then we tell on ourselves as we go through, where our agendas really are. So it was really kind of funny. Now I look back on it and go, yeah, that's right. One of my very closest friends right now that's actually going to talk in my retreat in January. When I first met her, it was a similar thing. And she just couldn't believe it. I said, well, because it was my own way, because I have been chastised and traumatized and beat down and made fun of and harassed for my gifts so much when I was younger that every once in a while it just pops up and I have to like, whoa, it's 2025. We're going to be okay, and settle that part down. And so it just reminds me like, oh, yeah, you see these little things, the threads remain on some level, even though I don't pay attention to them anymore much.
Yeah. No.
So I have another question or two that I kind of want to talk to you about, because I think it's really important. When it comes to change, because a lot of people say, well, I want to change, or I want to break the pattern, or, I want to go after this goal, which is going to require effort, work, and change. Yet we live in a culture that believes that all you need to do is take a pill. You don't really actually need to change to get anything. And there's just all this weird dynamic about what it really takes to transform our lives or change, or even to take off the armor and be real. And so can you think of, and I'm sure you can, a scenario, without giving any confidential information, of course, a scenario of like somebody comes to you and they're all blocked up, and then the kind of the work and the transition, and then how they emerge and the power in that. So like if somebody is listening to you right now, and they go in the show notes and they want to follow you and they want to work with you, what's an example of a person or a scenario or situation so people can understand the flavor of the power of your gift?
Thank you. Yes, I think that it brings me, like, as you were speaking, I'm thinking about one particular client, mostly because she's a newer client. And I got really excited about helping her because part of the challenge for me that I get to help people with is this idea that you're stuck. I say that because when we're looking at stuck, that's all we see. When we're looking at where we're stuck, that's all we get. More of where you could possibly be stuck. And she happened to be in one of those places in her life where she knew there was more for her to do. She knew that she wanted to express and do more in her life and her business. And she was kind of circling that, I'm stuck. And so the very first time that we met, I asked really pointed questions based around not where she was stuck, but where she wanted to be. Like, what is this vision you keep seeing that you feel where you should be and versus where you are?
Right.
And I think that's the first step, is always understanding, like, people come looking at the door they just walked through, right? They come in, they want something different. Like you said, they want to change, but they're still looking over their shoulder.
Mhm.
And so my first goal is to say, let's start with looking at why you moved and where you want to go anyway. Then once we've done that, once we've established that there is something more for you to do, then we can look at what's underpinning, holding you back, right? What are the old patterns and beliefs, and doing that is a combination of things. Of course, through everything, there's the intuitive piece for me. And I also am, I'm trained in clinical hypnotherapy, neuro-linguistic programming. And so I will use every tool in my toolbox to help uncover, unlock, and release things that are holding them back from taking the next step. And so for her, it was a beautiful moment where she kept playing a piece in her mind over and over, which was framing everything she got to do. In other words, she believed that she needed to be the good girl because of the way she was raised, the way, that everything, like, type A, have to have all the A's, have to do everything right, have to do everything perfect. And so that limited her from really taking risks. And yet she actually is a really great risk taker. And so here she was banging her head against this wall where her whole internal system was like, I want to jump out and do these amazing things. And then that voice would come in and say, yeah, but that's not responsible. And that's not, you can't, how are you going to make sure that all the boxes are checked and everything else? And so we got to play. And so I work with my clients, and they come and we spend a weekend together. So we have a lot of time to kind of walk through this process. But what she left with was an entire plan for how she could actually activate those visions, not just on the practical side of like what steps to take, but also how she can embody them. And I will tell you that within the first 3 weeks of working together, we created a campaign for her to basically revamp her business. And she made over $57,000 from one email that we created, a series of emails to reach out to her individual clients that she's been working with forever, to really embrace this new idea. They were ready for her. They were they were waiting for this new piece. And so for me, it's just taking the time to investigate what you really want, finding anything in the way of that, helping you to be either uncover it, or like I said, we can reprogram it, and using that intuitive gift that I have to kind of seek out those moments in what you're talking to me about that we can dive into and take advantage of moving for you. And then with my own background in sales, marketing, and operations, I can help you make that business look like that. Figure out what tools and resources and next steps you need to take to build the business that does that for you.
Oh, that's really great. That's a really good example of how, I'm listening to you and I'm like, yep, the old belief system's in there, just kind of running their mouth and getting in the way and putting up all the roadblocks. And sometimes it takes working with another person to give ourselves permission to put things in proper perspective and realize that's old news and to move forward. And I talk all the time about the value of having coaches and mentors and people in our world, having an inner circle, especially for neurodivergent and gifted people. We need more than one person in our world. And because we're so diverse, we're so nuanced, we need to have lots of people. And so it really matters that we pay attention to that. And I love how people come away with like a strategy, not just for the business stuff, but also for standing in their authenticity and their sovereignty, which then and those things feed off each other. So that's a really brilliant example. So for all of you who are wondering what the value is of working with somebody who is highly intuitive, who understands business, vision, and passion, if I were you, I'd go in the show notes and I would click on oracleonpurpose.com and go hunt Lia down. She's all over social media and she's got a podcast too. So you can go find her and you can listen to her and you can follow her and you can make comments and you can tell her you heard her here, because you will then have somebody else in your corner besides me and in addition to me that gets you, because it's all about being gotten and heard and valued. And I think you're hearing that very clearly from what Lia is saying. Now, I want to mention a little bit. I mean, there's so much to your work. There's way more to it than we could even cover in a show. But I want to mention a little bit about the power of retreats. And because you're doing this really cool retreat coming up in Greece,
Yes.
right? And I'm doing one in Florida, and we both like to do retreats. So what is the power in the coming together in a retreat setting for people with whatever the common thing is, like for neurodivergence or women in business, whatever it is, like what's the power of a retreat and people coming together, not just doing a solo retreat?
Absolutely. I think biggest thing about retreats, and I know that you're doing yours and it's going to be amazing. And I'm sure you've seen this as well. Like the big thing is that when the difference between like a conference and a retreat, in my opinion, and I've done many over the last few years, is really it's about stepping away from what your normal day-to-day life is, but also stepping into a place where you're supported. And so you have the space and the time and also the support to really take whatever the theme or the intention of the retreat is and try it on in an experience and an embracing environment with others who are also having a similar journey as you. So there's that beautiful to me chemistry, if you will, the alchemy of having a group of people gathered energetically to move through something that they can not only witness each other, but they can shine back to each other through those interactions and the experiences and whatever wonderful moments that you have. And that's both, maybe inside the classroom version of the retreat, as well as just being on retreat together, eating and spending time together and doing activities together. That energetic bonding can't happen really, in my opinion, again, through any other medium except face-to-face live events. And especially with the retreat where the intention is to step away, I think, and step inside, that is the beauty of a retreat version versus just a regular standard conference. Because to me, in a conference setting, it's more about that thinking mind and the learning and tools and resources. And I think retreats take us deeper into our soul connection with the work that we're doing in the world.
Yes, I agree. That's how I see it too. And I think there's a synergy in retreats that everybody, because of the like-mindedness and the coming together, that synergy and that the flow, and I keep seeing the spiral, like it starts taking on its own energy, and then everybody gets a much greater benefit long term, and it continues to go. Versus if we were by ourselves, we'd still get great benefit if we got away for a while, but we'd get a greater benefit when we engage with others who are like-minded, headed in the same direction. There's a power in that, I think.
Absolutely. I agree with you.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love it. I just think it's so exciting. So I'm kind of paying attention to the fact that I could talk to you forever, and that's not the point of the show. So what I would like to know, because you've traveled all over the place, you do retreats in all different kinds of countries, and you've traveled a lot. And so what is the most memorable food that you've ever eaten?
Ooh, that's such a great question. I do like to eat too. I eat all the time. That's one of the big things. I like to have big dinners and meals for our team. So I'm trying to think now. Well, I will say it's not necessarily a type of food, but a restaurant that I've gone to that was probably the most and still top place I've ever been to because of how they served us. And it's called Kitchen. And it's in Edinburgh, Scotland. And what is beautiful about their food is everything, of course, is local, but they actually give you a little map before you have dinner. And it literally shows you on the map where everything you're eating comes from. And when you sit you down, they ask, not just like, do you have any allergies, which, a lot of places do, but one of my guests that I went with, she had not just allergies, but she had food concerns, let's say. And everything that she had, it wasn't just, oh, here's a salad because you don't do this. They literally made her own perfectly delicious meal right next to ours. So everything we had was so hand crafted and beautiful and thoughtful. And the energy that they put into the foods, as well as the service and of course, what they bring into their kitchen is just, it's like you can just feel the energy of the food. And one of the most amazing things I've ever had there, which I didn't think I liked before I went there, was this scallop. And it was just otherworldly. And I like shellfish, but it was like, this is the most, you put it in your mouth and it suddenly takes you to another place. And I love that. Yeah,
Yep.
it was amazing.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. I'm having a memorable experience and I've never been there. Just listening to you describe it. That's like so amazing. And I think that there's so much power in taste in food and fellowship around food and the love that goes into making it, you can feel.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And it's the, everything's connected to everything. Everything's vibration. So what is it? It's not woo, it's actual science.
Right. It's absolutely science. It is quantum physics, really.
Yes, it is. So I have a couple more questions, but before I ask those questions, I would like to know if there's anything that you really wanted to talk about that I haven't asked you about as we get ready to kind of wind down the show. Is there anything that you wanted to say or that you were thinking would be important that I didn't mention?
I think one of the things, because we talked about before we started, like this idea of like what makes us, creative and different. And I want to, I just keep getting this inclination to say, when my grandmother told me that specialness, and I think sometimes people feel like, oh, everybody's special. Yes. The answer is yes, everybody is special. And just because you might feel different and your difference is something that other people have or don't have or understand or don't understand, you are uniquely, divinely, purposefully here. And that is special. That is unique. And I really, it's so important for me when I see people just like you really are meant to be here, just the way you are. And that is special. And I hope that people know, and I love what you do in your show because I know that that's such a great place for them to come and hear that message from you. So I just want to put an exclamation point next to that. Like the specialness is the magic and it's purposeful.
Yep. On purpose with a purpose. It's totally true.
Yeah.
Yeah. On deep soul, cellular levels down to the mitochondria, like really that knowingness of all knowingness. And so when we say yes, things change, things happen.
Absolutely.
Outside of our human understanding. I mean, I look back now sometimes and go, I had no idea I would be here now. And this is the coolest thing ever. And I could never have scripted it because this is better than I could have thought of.
Yes.
And, it's like, I always tell everybody, you just reminded me, I always say to everybody, and I say to myself all the time, it's not going to look like you think because it's going to be better than you think. Because
hardly ever. Yeah.
As gifted as you could possibly be, that's still not it. It's bigger and better and cooler than that.
Yes.
And so if you're really loving the thing you're seeing in your head now, wait till you shift and transform, move, and then something even more amazing happens. I have this one kid I'm working with. He's adorable. And every week he says, this is my best week. I am doing the best. I'm ready to keep going. I'm like, you already are going. I keep reminding him that, but every week he feels more and more empowered and amazing and sees things. And the epiphany is large and small. And it's all developing and growing. And we were just talking about him getting ready to graduate college and dating and all of these things and his first job, all those things. And he goes, but Dianne, 5 months ago, I didn't even know I was going to get out of college, much less if I was ever going to get a job. And now I can see it all. I go, right, exactly. Yeah. You couldn't see it then, but you can see it now because, we're going in a circle and you can't see the other side yet. So you just reminded me of that. That's really fun.
Yes. I love that.
All right. So everybody, you can go hunt Lia down in the show notes and you will find her formal bio and everything there. And I invite you to follow her, make sure that you find the right people, places, and situations to support your unique differences because you are brilliant. And hear it from both of us in stereo, I might say, that you are meant to be here. And this time and space, you are called to be something amazing. I believe it's the gifted neurodivergent people that are here to save humans from themselves, actually. So it's a big calling. And sometimes it feels daunting. make sure you have a really good support system. And so reach out to one of us if you have any questions or you want to talk about it, because both of us are open to doing that. So our final question of the show is, if we were going to put a billboard up that the entire world was going to see with Lia Dunlap's personal quote on it, what is that quote that you want the whole world to see on this billboard?
As long as you are breathing, anything is possible.
I love it. As long as you're breathing, anything is possible. That's a great one. All right, everybody. So Lia, thank you for being on Someone Gets Me with me today. It was so fun. We have to do this again.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I so admire you, Dianne, and I'm so grateful we got to do this today.
Oh, I'm so happy too. So remember, everybody, put your face to the sun so the shadows fall behind you, because you're a rock star. You're here on purpose with a mighty purpose. So go out there, let your light shine, and make sure that you take deep breaths and remember who you are. Until the next episode of Someone Gets Me, this is Dianne and Lia saying, be well.